That for us, the master plan is pre-K-12. But your board is saying the focus needs to be elementary, but we believe that you need to also share with them that whole big picture thought. When they do decide at some point to look at that, they have to have a starting point. So, what is the best master plan solution for Bowling Green High School? When they do take a look at it, do you believe that it would be a completely new building? Renovating the current building with no additions? Or renovating with a partial demolition and new additions added back on?
Just to refresh our memory with what the renovation percentage is compared to
When we met last time, and looked at the renovation cost, we had added on a couple factors, the reprogramming, but also some of the suggestions that we had, and to update the cost, and it came out to right around 69% in the revised. It was originally about 55 from 2015, and it's at 69 based on the things that we had looked at.
So we click on here and it should be there.
Oh, what the heck? Oh, shoot. Why did that not work?
Hold on here, just a second, because I'm looking at him going, wait a minute, we can't see it.
Oh, there it is. I don't know why it didn't show up. But here it comes. There we go.
They always do it.
Yep, those are the answers. Yeah.
Okay.
It just
okay.
didn't, you went
Okay.
past it or something, I'm not sure what
Did
happened.
I go past? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just a quick take on this. 14% of you are saying maybe the board needs to consider looking at a completely new building. 27% is just saying renovate what you already have and no new additions, just fix with the same square footage, repurpose if need be, reorganize, so on and so forth. 59% of you are saying renovate in some form, and this does not mean that you're all thinking exactly the same demo piece, so we'll have to clarify that piece, but some sort of a new addition be placed on the high school. Okay. Good information. I appreciate you people focusing and understanding that the master plan has to be pre-K-12, but now we're going to turn back to the fact that we need to look tonight back on the elementary piece. Again, when you first started with us, we just wanted to show you that time's gone quickly, and I can't thank you enough for hanging with us. The numbers stayed strong. We appreciated your help, and I know that I told you before, I'm very left-handed, very right-brained, so I don't get too frustrated about things, but for those folks that are the opposite and want to be either told or focus on one thing and say, why are we messing with all these other options? I know I can be frustrating. So my apologies if I were at any point, but I think you're in a much better place as a community as a result. So today's agenda, as I told you, is looking at the elementary school master plan findings again. And we'll keep this short, direct, because what we're trying to get out of you tonight is a community look at which of those preferences you have and which ones you like and you think the community are more likely to support. Our exit ticket, I will tip you off, is giving the information beyond these options of what your Board of Education and your administrative team might do to help foster whatever campaign they decide to throw forward. And I'll explain that a little more later, but I want to plug that in so you can be thinking about it so I don't cold turkey you right away. Tonight, before you leave, we're going to ask you to jot down other things. We've heard them all the way through these meetings, and we'd like to know from you is what Fannie and Howey does to say, okay, what other kinds of things do you need to tell your Board of Education that might help them tell the story to move your district forward with a building plan? Is it a different way of communicating? Is it a different type of coffee clutch? Is it getting out to a certain group of people? Is it a different frame of financing? Is it whatever you think it is? And your exit ticket tonight is going to be asking you beyond some of these questions. So I'm going to turn it back over to Steve and let the architect talk to you about that information, and then we'll go back to the clickers in a few minutes.
Thanks,
So I
Tim.
like that mic.
You like that mic, huh? I'd like to echo Tim's comments and just thank you all for hanging in with us. We've gone through a lot of meetings and seen a lot of things and got a lot of good information. So tonight we're going to do a little bit, just another deeper dive, another way of looking at the elementaries, and listen to some comments from last time. And we had comments about what's not there, what's not in the costs, and just want to recognize a couple things. The dollars per square foot are recognizing what OFCC would say for this region of Ohio, and for a project that would be funded in 2019 and built in 2021. So again, they try to predict what that cost is. So again, if the project doesn't move forward in 2019, then you need to add some more cost or cost escalation to that. So that's kind of the baseline. It is a project that would move forward in design in 2019 and begin construction in 2021. The other things that I did is kind of looked at the costs again and made sure where applicable, I added in the cost of any temporary classrooms and swing space. So if that was a necessity to do the plan, I put that cost in. Where demolition was expected to happen or had to happen, I put that in. And where we knew the cost of abatement and hazardous materials, which granted are preliminary costs that we have from the assessment, but it's the best information we had, so I put that in too. So that is in there. There's one packet on each table which has the information that I'll be going over today for all the updated plans and costs. So here's where we were. We did a series of voting and came down to the highest ranked, we'll put it, plans. These were those three. Now, if you remember at last meeting, we had some suggestions and we did some on-the-fly voting. We came up with some things and re-voted. And that was this option right here, which we called 6A because we had a 6 and it was a version of that. So that option 6A was a new PK5 and renovating additions to CRIM. And as we looked at how you responded to this, it tracked as favorably as those other three. So to be fair, we're going to put this into the mix just for discussion. Again, we're not asking you to pick one, we're not asking you to rank them tonight. We're asking you to think about each one and think about it in the light of what the community might support. That's kind of the theme of what we want you to think about tonight, is what would the community support? So we have these four that we're going to talk about. The costs for all four of those are on the table. So the first option one, again, is the single building. And that option now does include the cost to abate and demolish Kenwood and Conneaut. And there are no dollars assigned to CRIM in this option. That's a $39.6 million option. And again, for those of you who want to see how that detail was created, it's on the color sheets on your table. And again, what I've done is I've looked at the OFCC costs that are published for 2018. There are no 2019 numbers yet. They'll come out in April. But what I did is I added a factor of 8%, just based on discussions of what they feel is the market change. So all the costs that we're talking about are based on that 2019 assumed number with the inflation put in. As I said before, this is a project that would move forward in 2019 and start construction in 2021. So that's $39.6 million. So option 2 was the option where we're renovating all 3 buildings. It also does the size adjustment to make sure that we have space in each of the renovated buildings to accommodate the students. And it also includes the cost to do reprogramming within the buildings to accommodate the school district's educational vision. So that's what comes out of those 3 renovations, and that's $32.3 million. And again, in the breakdown, it does have the line items for the renovation, reprogramming, abatement, temporary classrooms, because again, if you're renovating buildings that you're in, you have to do that, and the addition. Good question.
Does that include soft furnishings?
Yes, it includes furnishings, yes. Yes.
What are you talking about when you talk about temporary classrooms?
Temporary classrooms would be the lease cost for approximately 2 years of basically trailers, classroom trailers that would come in and be set, and you would essentially rotate out half the kids at a time for basically a school year, and then do half the building, and then move the other half of the kids and do half the building. So it's just a way to get the project done in about a 2 school year period.
Can you answer one question for
Yeah.
me? You know, we got with the state people coming in, and he told us that there'd be no problem having that 10 years projected down the road to get that money. I think we're foolish not to apply for it if you get a bond issue for so much, say 40 million, and apply for it for 10 years down the road. Even if you don't get it, you still got the bond for 40, which builds the building.
And using OFCC is certainly an option. And again, what that would mean is what the school district would choose to enter the expedited local partnership program. They'd have to apply, and basically once you have a plan decided upon that works out with OFCC, you can apply, and at that point in time you could lock in for future funding. So rather than adding that to the equation, I'm just kind of using the numbers straight off
I
here.
mean, that's just something that would project building down the road, even if it wasn't used as project. Say you don't even get it, what are you out if you have a $40 million bond issue? You're not out nothing for applying.
For applying, you can apply, yeah, right, and then you have to follow the regulations of what's in the OFCC, and the costs that I put in really follow and align with what those would be anyway. So again, that's a choice, that's an option for the district to consider, is to decide whether or not that's the right thing to do.
I mean,
There's more of a finance task force.
this just doesn't make sense not to try to get it.
Isn't the finance task force dealing with that question?
Yes. I'm assuming that the financial task force is looking at that?
Well, the only thing that I'm saying, is we heard this, and we heard the state man down here, and he said that was a guarantee, almost, unless there was a massive,
How many years has this?
well, no, but he said that unless there was a crisis down the road, is all I'm saying.
Right, you pay for the project up front for the promise of future participation from the state. Yes.
At one of the board meetings, I think it was a special board meeting, Superintendent Scrucci mentioned that it was so difficult now to get trailers because of it's all gone to all the disaster areas. So is that feasible? Did you look into that?
The question was, is it feasible to get trailers with the lack of trailers? I'm not aware of what the conditions are. I'm just saying, here's what they cost. I don't know the logistics of whether they're hard to get right now or not. I know we're doing projects that have them. I don't know if there's a complication in getting them right now, though. Okay, Option 3 was the option that has 2 new buildings, two new PK5s, one on the Conneaut site. Again, that's a building constructed while you stay in Conneaut, and then tear down after. Same thing with Kenwood, build a new building and tear down after, and then to renovate and reprogram Crib, and it would get a small addition in order to accommodate the school population. So that's option 3. And that option is $37.7 million. Okay, and then option 6A, if you recall, I had presented at first a large building and a small building, and what we did in 6A was to say 2 elementaries, same size, one of them on the high school, middle school site, and then add on to Crim so that it was going to be the same capacity or close to it. I just tried to balance them. So that requires a larger addition. So that would be a new building for 716 students, and then addition to Crim and some renovation for 716 students, and then abate and demolish Conneaut and Kenwood, and that costs $34.2 million. And the detail is here. It has the breakdown of trailers and modulars and demolition and abatement and additions. So, there's a page also in there that has all of them. So you see the costs, they range from $32.3 to $39.6 million for those 4 options. Yeah. So, questions before we go any further?
Suggestion on the 6A one. If we were to build that building and make the mechanical space large enough for future support of a renovated high school, with chillers located in there and boilers, that would help reduce the cost of the renovation to the high school, or should. May increase the elementary a little bit. So that might be something to think about.
Yeah, there's certainly some possibilities to think about. I'm trying to keep this, a high-level look at each one of these and just to give a kind of the same view, but there's certainly a lot of things that we could think about that would be different ways of doing this.
The other thing to eliminate the use of trailers would be to move all the kids out of Crim into the new building, and then renovate Crim, and then redistrict or spread the kids out however it works.
Yeah.
And that would save money.
Right.
The other thing would be to look to save money is with the demolition. And city council mentioned they wanted to be supportive of the schools, and whether or not we could work out a situation which happened previously where the schools sell the 2 buildings to the city for $1 each. City does the demo, make Conneaut a couple soccer fields, maybe a picnic table, turn over the rec department. Kenwood, same type of thing, and maybe a playground. And right there, we saved $500,000 out of the construction budget.
Right. Those are certainly all options. I just had to, for simplicity, be able to make some general assumptions to put everything down for discussion and comparison. But absolutely, there's a lot of different ways to take any one of these plans and think about what some of the variables might be in order to kind of tweak the cost one way or the other. Yes.
According to the newspaper, superintendent said that consolidation was more or less tabled. If we're going out and take and build 2 new schools, we really won't have to come back in the future and build one consolidated because it's already taken care of in one of these other plans. So why are we looking at the one consolidation figures and so forth when the local administration said,
We're just being true to our process. I mean, this is, we're showing what we've talked about and not just taking anything away.
I really need to protest on that one. I talked with Francis Scusi, after that comment, a comment was made in discouragement about the fact that the earlier plans had gone down. And they went down, I think, because of costs, not because of the concept. The concept of the consolidated school has not been given up by the administration at all. That was a comment about a defeat of a monetary large amount like this. So that is not off the table, and there are many, many reasons why the consolidated is financially better long-term and better long-term for the students using the resources, the human resources, the physical resources, the long-term resources. So no, I ought to make sure that that is not off the table. The administration has not given up on it. And don't get that idea in your head, because they have not.
Okay, and as was mentioned by Steve, and to honor our process, and what I was telling you before when we started, the master planning has to make sure that we're moving forward what this group has found some interest in. So there's interest in these options, and that's why we're trying to get that information from you. Yes?
I'm sorry, I had to miss a couple of meetings, and I've been watching
That's
all the
fine.
slides and everything, and I feel like I'm up to date, but I think I missed something somewhere. Preschool is a program. It cannot be split up to
Correct.
among 2 or 3 buildings.
Correct.
So I just want to make
Well,
sure with your numbers.
As an educator, I can tell you I've had to split it up before. I don't like to split it up, so I hear where you're coming from. All these are pre-K programs, so it's pre-K, it's pre. There has to be a pre part. Districts are all different, so that your pre-K component could be Head Start, which is not really school-related, but some districts are able to put it in the same facility, which works fabulous. Or, yeah, but yours isn't that way. Or it's pre-K and it is put in one building, but as your population continues to grow, sometimes in districts it grows outside of the facility that you have it pegged at the end, so that it has to. But in these solutions, we would try to make sure that it was accommodated in one building because it works
I just
much
don't know if it would
better.
affect the numbers in some way, but that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, no, and the numbers are all a little bit flowing, so we should be okay.
That's all I wanted to know.
All right,
But if I
yes.
look at that, wasn't the original proposal for pre-K to be in the Crib building and to build one community school?
Yes.
How did we get the pre-K one building? Why did we not talk about pre-K and Crib?
I think we just talked about is the consolidated elementary would really just be K-5. Because the preschool would most likely be a crib, right?
That was my.
Okay, but your question again is, what, I'm sorry.
How did the proposal here become pre-K to 5, and we just ignored the original pre-K with the idea of pre-K and crib being over? Pre-K being in the crib.
We're not trying to say where the kids are. What we did is we said, we early on said, we have a lot of numbers. And we're going to utilize an enrollment of 3,100 and something as the number that we use to be able to drive these plans. So we haven't really tried to say where those kids are. We've just said it's that kind of a building. Whether they're in a different building or not is not going to change the dollars because they're still just going to be built that size for that many kids. So if it does get shuffled one way or the other, the plan could easily be tweaked and any building could be adapted if it was specifically going to take all the PK. Then it may actually adjust somewhat to accommodate that, but we're just trying to keep this a really high level look and say, here's all the kids in PK5, and we want to try to accommodate them in a lot of different plans. How do we best do that and give a fair comparison to everybody?
I think what you've done is misleading, at least to me. I mean,
Okay.
I kept looking at this, how did this happen? And I didn't even understand the issue you brought about pre-K being in one building. I had no concept of that.
I mean,
Okay?
it started at the Jordan Center.
Then the simplest way for me to explain it would be, if it's working at CREM and you put all the pre in CREM, then there'll be a little bit of that money and a little bit of those numbers that will move toward CREM and away from the other spots. It's still the same big ball of money, you're just wanting to know exactly where the kids are going. So it wasn't meant to be misleading, it's just the way the architects lay it out so that it is similar in pattern, because
Except, yeah, okay, but except what you've done is all the ones, we're sitting here thinking, well, what's happening to that building? And, you know, you got a building that you've added on, it's fairly new, at least in one area, you certainly want to use that. And so, we don't want to, I agree, we don't want to micromanage this, but we want to have some idea of what the use of the buildings are, and then
right, right. And so when we get to that point at the end, if that's a point, I'll remind you to jot it down, because if it's working, there's no reason to change it, and if it's misleading here, it wasn't meant to be, it's just the dollar and cents trying to make it flow.
and I agree, our intent is to give some guidance to the board, but the board is the one that makes the decision.
Right. Okay, what I'd like for you to do for just a few minutes is look at those sheets, because we're going to ask you some questions here in a minute about one over the other. So take a few minutes, look at those options and the dollars that Steve talked about. We'll be around quick to hear and see if there's any other questions, and then we'll bring you back together to give us some more of your opinions. As I told you before. And remember, you're talking community mentality. I know it's hard to separate out your feelings and thoughts, but we're trying to get a feel now for, you know, your community, you've seen more probably and understand more than your basic community member may have at this time. But we'd like for you to vote based on what you're thinking. Mark?
I have a question.
Yep.
Okay, so when I punched this, I had this little sign with the zero with the line
Whoop.
through it.
That's because we gave you one that's running out of juice.
Okay, so I just wanted to be sure, what am I gonna see on this when I punch it?
We
Can
got
I see
something.
the number that I punch?
Remember with all of this, remember with all of this that the last one you punch, if you change your mind, the last one you punch is going to be the one that registers. So if you think about it and you think, no.
So like if I
All right, hold on.
press 1, then I should see a 1. If I press 2, I should see a 2.
Well, Steve, check it.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to reset everything and make sure I have it.
All right, Steve, just give us a second. Steve's going to reset. Another reason why maybe I needed to get rid of that.
This one has a line going.
Mine's good.
Okay, well, we can always come back. So hold that thought, yeah.
So does that mean it's good or not? I was wondering what that is. I'm
Yeah, mine's got a full battery.
The question was the land space on 6A, and that's what the architects, when they said they went through and checked everything, that's why, yes, it's okay. Okay, that's a good question.
Well, right now, we're not in yet. Good now?
Can I see one of those?
Okay, we should be good.
All right, he's saying we should be good. It may just not been showing that you were capable of voting yet. Well, hold on.
I just pushed a button, so, and it came up with B and a green light. money.
Good.
Didn't do that before.
But that's because he had to reset everything. Okay.
Well, don't take that as my vote.
No, but you can change it.
You can change your vote.
You can change your vote, because this one is now open.
Okay.
So here's your question.
Oh, this one.
Which of the following two elementary school options do you believe the community is more likely to support? Is it A, option 1, the one consolidated elementary, or B, option 2, renovation of all 3 existing elementaries? Your community.
I don't like voting for the community.
All I did was read.
You're giving us your opinion.
I got enough.
Okay, try that one.
Yep, I got green light, got a green light.
It's not uncommon to have 1 or 2, but not lots. This one is the. Okay, has everybody weighed in? Okay, Steve.
There we go. Oops. It's showing up late. Okay.
All right. 38% of you said one consolidated elementary. 62% of you are saying renovate the 3 existing. All right, let's go on to the next question. Now, look at these two. Which of the following 2 elementary school options do you believe the community is more likely to support? 1 consolidated elementary building, or new Kenwood, new Conneaut, and a renovated Krim? I'm sorry? It's not open?
It's not better help.
And you can't take email anywhere.
Nobody wants to.
Reset. All right, well, you'll have to hang with us. We may be doing these one at a time, on a reset every time, we'll see. All right, try again. 1 consolidated elementary building, or the option 3, which is the new Kenwood, the new Conneaut, and the renovation of Krim. Okay? All right.
Oh, yeah, there is. It says on it.
A or B, yeah. Got it? Okay.
I'm gonna have to come back and show the answer.
All right, we'll show the answers. Let's go ahead and see if we can go through these. So the next one that we'd ask you to vote on is the 2 elementary options that the community is most likely to support between 1 consolidated elementary school and the new elementary on the high school campus with a renovation and an addition to Krim. Okay? All right? Now, hopefully we'll keep your brain waves straight here. 2 elementary options again. Community most likely to support renovating all 3 existing elementaries, or a new Kenwood, a new Conneaut, and the renovation of Krim. Of those 2, which one do you think your community might support more? Okay, we ready to go on to the next one? Here it is. This one, again, 2 elementary options. Your community most likely to support renovation of the existing 3 elementaries or the new elementary on the high school campus with that crib renovation and addition. Renovation of 3 or 1 new and 1 renovation addition. Okay. Next, 2 elementary options again. Your community is more likely to support the new Kenwood, new Conneaut, and the renovation of Krim, or the new elementary on the high school campus and the Krim renovation with addition. You can tell we're poking at you all different directions, so. Don't mean to be in your road, I apologize.
Wait, how do you change your vote?
Just hit it,
Just
hit again. The last thing you do.
is going to be the one that registers. Okay, by looking at the crowd, I think they're ready, Steve. All right. All right, now we'll show that to you. While he's doing that, I appreciate it because we passed out the exit tickets and we have been how we believe that it's very appropriate for you folks, now that you've seen more and heard more than what your public has at this point, that it's good to always share out other ways you think the board might tackle this, either through communication plans, through ideas of things that you might do, whatever.
We need to revote this one because for some reason it didn't take. I don't know.
Okay. All right, hold that thought and let's go back to this then. We have one here that
Revote this one.
we need to revote. So if you take a look at this one, 2 elementary options, community most likely to support, 1 consolidated elementary building, or the option of new Kenwood, new Conneaut, and the renovated Krim. Then we'll show you the results. Okay, everybody have it in? Appreciate it.
All right, we'll run through them now.
All right, so we're ready to run through them? Okay. We'll let you punch them. The first one, the consolidated or the renovation, you saw, 3862. The second one was the consolidation with the new Kenwood and new Conneaut or renovation, about the same. This one actually shows some people are maybe interested. I guess that's the reason why we left and brought the 6A on based on what you told us a couple meetings ago. So, new elementary on high school campus, Krim renovation and addition, 2773. All right, then moving to the next way around to compare one to the other. The renovation of the 3 versus the new Kenwood, new Conneaut, renovating Krim, 4357. So, similar. Okay, next one, renovate all three, and the new elementary on the high school campus with CREM renovated addition, 5446. All right, then putting new Kenwood, new Conneaut, and renovating CREM against the new elementary on the high school campus and the CREM renovation addition, 64. Okay. Yes.
I would like to ask why you put these, why did we have to vote for the entire community? It was so hard to try to think about the whole community and make a vote versus just myself. So what was your thinking? Why did you ask us to vote for the entire community?
Couple of reasons. First, a few weeks ago, we started to gather some of your personal thoughts and interests, and we are quite aware that the board still has some decisions that they're going to have to make. There's, unlike some school districts where you're ready to roll with one option and no bars held, you're not there. And two, when it comes to once you know the information, we also want to give you credit because as a member of the community, you reflect the community, plus you need to give us some kind of a feel of where you think things would go.
But
So,
I think we are representing the community. So when we vote based on our own individual opinion, we are representing the community based on the numbers of people that are here. So I guess what I'm saying is I felt really uncomfortable trying to think about how this whole community would vote on those issues versus just me.
okay, and that might be fair, but I would question how many of you think you changed your answer from your personal answer based on that? I mean, just show me your hands. How many of you might have? Then to me, that's where we need to be. You are one person, and I get that, but when you're looking at a whole community to try to tell a story, you've got to look beyond you. What you want might be brand new everything, but your community may not be there. And as an educator, I would tell you that anything, if you have a need for your kids, anything is better than getting nothing. So that's why I applaud what I've started to hear in regard to your board saying we may have to go in sections and segments. We may not be able to get everything we might need now because monetarily your community is reflecting and reacting to that piece and some of the other things that this group has shared. So you may not think that you have been heard and that the conversation is going, but again, I would remind you where you were when we started and where we are at this point, and I think you have come a long way. And I don't want this to sound bad, but I sort of appreciate the fact that you're now at a point where you're maybe not always at ease and maybe not always knowing why you're asked what you're asked or why you're being asked to think in the manner that you're being asked to think in. Because one thing that I can see with this group that has happened is you're a lot more tolerant, you're a lot more realistic, you're a lot more in tune with there are some things in school education that have to be looked at, and you'd like to have this, but maybe it's time to at least bite off this much. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the method. That was the method to the madness. We could ask in the exit ticket to have you say, I still think it's this, but you are representing your community, and again, the board's going to have to make a lot of conversation and a lot of decisions yet before they throw something on the ballot. And a lot of the things that you bring up about ways to save money and ways to do business, that's perfect, but that's down in the weeds a little bit compared to the global piece of asking your community, what is it that you see for the future of Bowling Green schools? So we'll gather all of this information, we'll get it to you. We'll also very much like to have you take a few minutes and jot down anything, again, that you think would be helpful to pass on to your board. We'll work through David Conley, of course, but anything that you can give us of things that you think might help with whatever they decide. How do they get this out to the masses? How do they communicate it? What other pieces or parts might you think would be beneficial for your school district to make sure that they include? So anything you can give us would be appreciated. If there's any other thoughts that you want to add at the bottom, please feel free, because we'll look at these as we gather them and move them forward. And then we'll be around here, and you can just leave them on the table as you leave. Your first meeting and your last meeting at this point have been the only two meetings that I'm letting you out a few minutes early. So I apologize for all the ones in between, but you've been great. So take a few minutes, fill that out, and know that you have our emails and our phone numbers, and then we'll go from there. Yes? At this time, I think we'll take David's lead, but at this point, I don't think we're scheduling another meeting.
So what are we coming to the table with?
We're going to tabulate all of this information and show this at some point to the board in whatever format David wants us to show it.
Is it not going to the finance committee, actually?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We'll have to move this much information on to David. If you folks didn't, when I was referring to David, David is David Conley that runs your finance committee. Okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just go ahead and please leave your clip.